thank you to all of the speakers on the panel. I'd like to invite Sam and Matt back up, and we'll just have a little discussion. I was really struck by the map of the Mediterranean climate zones in the world. And, we are here at the invitation of the Basque Culinary Center, which is a Mediterranean climate, and we are lucky enough to be in one ourselves. And so I wanted to invite all of you to think about how would your businesses be different if you were in a different climate, or in a different political, cultural, economic climate, probably in your case. So Sam, do you want to start?
Yeah, I was going to say that's an easy one from Matt. I was just down visiting the farm, his farm yesterday, and they're creating their own climate, so it's definitely different. I think our business would be somewhat different, and it really depended on which climate we were in. I've developed a pretty large network of peer retailers around the country and several actually around the world, and I'm really impressed with the growing the local food movement, the local cultivation that's happening everywhere, and it's not just happening exclusively in California. Our advantage is that we have longer seasons, and we have access to more for a longer period of time as a result. I think the other thing that we have access to is a community of consumers who are pretty passionate and who care. And that also has been evolving and is changing as people are becoming more aware of the impact that food has on their diet, the food has on their health, that it has on their children's health, that it has on the environment, that the desire to make positive decisions with every meal are increasing all around the world. I just got back from a trip, through Europe and New York, and several people I talked to are they're stepping up in different ways, and so it would be different because we would have in the Northeast we'd probably have beautiful the best sunchokes and potatoes and apples, and then tomato season would probably be 2 months long instead of 5 months long.
Mm-hmm. So. And Katina and Kyle, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I think we came specifically to Sonoma County because of agriculture. That's what drew us there. When everyone asks why'd you come to Sonoma? actually it's pretty easy. It's we have wine, food, agriculture, amazing seasons, Mediterranean climate, and passion for food and wine up there. So it's an easy decision for us, to be up there. And I think it's sort of easy to be up there where we can grow year round and run a restaurant from a farm year round, and we grow 70% of what we grow, and that other 30% actually we choose to use outside farms because we don't want to lock ourselves in and be insular. We want to support the larger agricultural community around us, so we don't ever even aspire to grow 100%. But we can go year round like that and sustain a restaurant and an 11-course menu from that. And I have a look at other friends in different parts of the country and the different parts of the world. That's not necessarily practical if you're there. But if you look at some the work like Dan Barber and various people, John Shields and Karen at Smith in Chicago, do, as you say, people do step up and find ways. Now, obviously, we have to find ways that are sustainable, and restaurants and other food businesses, as I say to everyone, we need to work within the confines of nature. That doesn't just mean, 4 months out of the year, we're just going to serve, potatoes and apples that have been sitting in the, in the thing, and pumpkins that, that we still have. You can't necessarily sustain and make your business and make the guests, happy at any kind of level. It doesn't matter at the high-end level or the casual, level like that. And that's why we need a diversity of agriculture like that, of what you're doing at Plenty, that blends these things together so that we're not just shipping things all over the world and trying to do unnatural and unrealistic agricultural practices just to get us the product because we want it and we want it now and we don't care what time of year it is.
You want
Sure. So, I'll answer in two quick ways. I mean, one is the farm that I grew up on. Like I said, I mean, we grew some apples and cherries, but we grew strawberries for our own consumption because we couldn't grow them reliably enough to do it commercially. So we grew them for ourselves, and 1 out of every 7 years we had a good tomato harvest, and 1 out of every 5 we had a good pepper harvest. So there can be these massive variations from one part to the next. But for us at Plenty, we're excited to go to some other regions of the world that don't have a culture of a lot of fruit and vegetable consumption, are more meat-based, to bring them a richer, more robust plate. So we're super excited to do that. Like I said, we're early on our journey, but we're excited to do it. I'm also excited, and we are as a company. Like I said, it's about healthy people and healthy planet. We use less than 5% the water that it takes out in the field to produce the same crops, the same kilograms of plants, and we use less than 1% the land. So less than 1% the land, less than 5% the water. Less nutrients and fertilizers. So, these are all things that make us incredibly excited to, go to places like Asia and like the Middle East, where those things can be incredibly valuable for a lot of people.
My next question is about carrots. Obviously, I shop at Bi-Rite, and I was making my daughter's lunch, and there were apples and carrots, and for a while there she was coming back with the apples uneaten, but the carrots were eaten because they were so sweet and delicious. And at the same time, this is something that you mentioned, and I was reading about the nutrient density of carrots like in the 50s relative to in the 80s when I was getting carrots in my own school lunch. And I think that the carrots that I'm buying at Bi-Rite are just a world apart from the carrots I grew up with. And I think it has to do with how they were grown. And I hope, someone would kind of expand upon the relationship between nutrient density, flavor, and how produce are grown. Anyone?
You want to start, Jack?
I'll pass that down to you.
You want to start, Katina?
If the X-ray.
You met your quota.
You're the X-ray here.
Well, so I'll give it a try. Although I think Katina, who expresses herself through plants, should try. But so if you take a carrot, I think that the way that they're grown matters a lot, and Sam is proving that with the produce at Bi-Rite. And then the other thing that happens though is that it's also about when they're harvested relative to when people eat them. Mm-hmm. And so the way that, I'll use this very undelicious word, the supply chain works for most grocery stores is the carrot is harvested and then it sits for months in cold storage, often gassed under nitrogen to starve out the oxygen. But that doesn't keep it from degrading. And so when you take two of anything, you take two apples that are the same variety, picked at the same time, you take 2 carrots, the one with more flavor almost certainly has more nutrition. So flavor is a proxy for nutrition. And the more flavor-rich something is, if you're talking, again, 2 apples, 2 carrots, the more nutrients it's going to have. And so what happens is as soon as it's harvested, nutrients start to degrade. And within about a month, there's virtually no nutrient content left. So in the United States, for example, where an apple is about a year old by the time someone eats it, you're eating sugar and fiber and almost no nutrients. Most of the carrots that are not at Bi-Rite are anywhere from 3 to 6 months old. They have almost no nutrient content. They're dry fiber with almost no nutrient content. So and then therefore no flavor. So that's that. There is a deep and rich relationship between flavor and nutrients.
I also think that like a carrot is going to only be as good as the soil that it's being grown in. I mean, this is like that's a perfect crop. The vegetable variety really talk about the importance of soil Yeah, I mean, you think about the industrial, the Grimway carrot operations that are down south. I mean, they're being grown pretty much in sand fields, because then the carrot can grow long, it can grow straight with no obstructions, it can grow uniform, and the soil is the carrot's being fed really with industrial inputs, and as a consequence, I mean, you're basically tasting an industrial vegetable, right? That doesn't have the nutrient value, that doesn't have the sweetness and the flavor, and doesn't struggle. It's designed to grow fast and uniform, so that they can get it to market as quickly as possible. And they're constantly, planting again and putting more inputs into it, and keeping the cycles going. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that your daughter loved those carrots.
Yeah. Well, me too. So are you growing carrots at your farm?
Yes, and we are very selective with the location on the farm where we grow the carrots, because we want the best soil composition because of all of these reasons. Excuse me. They're actually not as easy to grow as people think. To get a beautiful, perfect carrot is not the easiest thing. So we're very selective, and we make sure that those carrots are sown in areas where we feel very confident with that soil. The nutrients and the composition have to be just spot on.
Yeah.
And you've pretty much got to rotate right afterwards to a different crop to restore
absolutely.
it, because the carrots draw a lot of the nutrients out of the soil. I mean, they're pretty significant.
So the comment that Sam made about a carrot really reflecting its soil, I want to turn back to you, Matt, because you're growing primarily vertically, right? And so it's not reflecting the land that it's growing in, and it's not on a crop rotation system of the kind that you'd see at single thread. So turn that into a question.
Yeah, yeah. Well. So I'll say, so what we're doing at Plenty, it's a very unique system, in that it is a hybrid between soil-based and hydroponic systems. So we're feeding the plants through the water with nutrients derived mostly from manure, and the seeds are germinated in soil and organic matter, things like coconut husk and peat moss and those types of things. And so it is a hybrid soil system that is then fed through the water, and so we're getting, soil is a host, and so when we think about healthy soil, we think about is that host the soil? Is it rich in the nutrients it needs? Is it rich in the microbes it needs in order to break down those nutrients to make it accessible to the plants? Can it host the water? Can it give that plant the environment that it needs and the home that it needs? And so that's how we address it at Plenty, is we bring it the organic matter and the soil in addition to the nutrients.
We have just a couple of minutes left, so I'm wondering if we can ask a question. I saw a hand over here.
So I'll ask Matt a very geeky scientific question. The question has always been, why do stems grow upwards and roots go downwards?
The question is, why do stems grow upwards and roots go downward?
It was always assumed that it was a gravitational effect. In fact, decades ago, we suggested to the astronauts that they take some grain that had germinated up into space where there was zero gravity.
Sure.
You see what now you've got a system where you actually fiddled around with gravities and you've got roots growing laterally.
Yeah.
So my question is to you, when they start growing, do they actually start curving downwards towards gravity? Take your carrot, for instance. Does it grow like that, or does it grow like that?
So there are so they're primarily I'll start. I'm going to answer your question. So there are two types of plants: phototropic and geotropic. Phototropic plants grow towards the light. Geotropic plants grow against gravity. So outside, that's pretty much all the same direction. Inside, as you've seen, some of our crops we actually grow sideways. The phototropic plants, because our lights are oriented vertically, the phototropic plants just grow sideways out towards the light. The geotropic plants grow sideways at first, and then they bend upwards against gravity. And the carrots pretty much they just grow. They grow horizontally rather, so they grow sideways out of these vertical walls. It's pretty cool to.
Thank you
to
for
see.
that very substantial question.
Yeah.
Well, I think it puts us in a perfect position to cede the floor to the next panel. I would love for a round of applause for our panelists.